It took me years to write it. Not because that it was difficult to write, but because it was difficult to live. But I lived it. So, good evening, everyone. First, I want to thank you for being here. Writing this book became more than telling my story. It became part of my healing. It was like a therapist that I didn't know I needed. My hope isn't that people simply read my words. My hope is that someone who has experienced pain, trauma, or any type of heartbreak in your life will realize that you're not alone. If only one person finishes this book believing that they have hope again, if only one person finds the courage to tell their own story, something they've been through, their own heartache, your story. If one person realizes that their past does not define their future, then every tear that I cried while writing these pages for me was worth it. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is that healing isn't about pretending the past never happened. Healing begins when we're brave enough to face the truth, no matter how painful that truth may be. That's why this book is called Where the Truth Lies. I had to face my truth. Because sometimes the truth isn't easy to find. Sometimes it's hidden behind years of silence, fear, or hurt. But when we finally uncover it, that's where freedom really begins. I don't sit here before you as a perfect person. We've all seen my Facebook. Okay, I'm not perfect. But I stand here before you as someone who chose not to let the past write the ending of my story. Instead, I picked up the pen myself. And that's what I hope all of you here remember tonight. You're not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by what you choose to become. Just like my story matters, so does yours. Your voice matters, the things that you've lived through, the accomplishments that you've made, all of you matter. And your life has purpose, just like mine did. So tonight, I'm going to share a piece of my heart with you because it meant a lot to me to write this book. And again, I thank you for being here. When people hear the word prison, they often think the story's over. Prison's the end. But once you've been there, your future's been decided. But boy, doesn't history tell us a different story. Prison has held people who went on to become presidents, authors, musicians, business leaders, voices that have changed the entire world. Because prison is a chapter. It doesn't have to be the entire book. Let's think about Nelson Mandela. Do you know his story? He spent 27 years in prison. After that amount of time in jail, most people would come out bitter, angry, lost. He came out determined to unite an entire nation and eventually became the president of South Africa. He came out determined and made a difference in the entire world after being in prison 27 years. Malcolm X. He entered prison as a young teenager with little direction. And while incarcerated, he educated himself, read constantly, and discovered his true purpose. Tim Allen. Before becoming one of America's best-known comedians and actors, he also served time in prison. After his release, he rebuilt his life and created a career that made millions of people laugh, probably some of you. Different people, different mistakes, and totally different circumstances. But they all prove the same thing. Your past doesn't have to dictate your future. I'd like to believe that my story belongs in that same conversation. Not because I'm famous, not because I led a movement that changed the world, but because I refuse to let prison have the final word in my story. I decided that my story would not end with a prison sentence, and that's why I'm here before you today. Not as an inmate number, not as a defendant on the stand, not as someone defined as the worst chapter of my life, but as an author, as a speaker, and a woman with true purpose. And someone who believes that every person deserves to be seen for who they can become, not just for where they've been.